Hello, people. How's it going? I first had to find the Rough Riders to film before I could do this, of course. So I'm a day late on what this is because actually the Battle of San Juan Hill was yesterday, July 1st, 1898. The Rough Riders was a nickname given to the 1st United States Volunteer Cavalry, one of three such regiments raised in 1897 for the Spanish American War, and the only one to see combat. The United States Army was still small, understaffed, disorganized in comparison to the status during the American Civil War. Roughly 30 years prior, following the sinking of the USS Maine, it was sunk, but it wasn't sabotage. President William McKinley needed to muster a strong ground force. Stop that. Thank you. You can stop doing that. Really? I love computers and phones. They're great little information things, but they are very delicate. See, President McKinley needed to muster a strong force swiftly, which he did by calling for 125,000 volunteers to assist in the war. The U.S. had gone to war in opposition to Spanish colonial policies in Cuba, which was then torn by rebellion. The regiment was also nicknamed Wood's Weary Walkers for its first commander, Colonel Leonard Wood. This reflected their dissatisfaction. Despite being cavalry, they ended up fighting in Cuba as infantry, since their horses were not sent with them. Which usually helps. Let's see. Anything else? Wood's second in command was former Assistant Secretary Teddy Roosevelt and Secretary of the Navy Theodore Roosevelt, a strong advocate for the Cuban War of Independence. And he really was. He really Teddy really wanted to go to war, and he really wanted to prove in his own way, he wanted to prove that he could handle being shot under fire. That's mostly what he wanted to prove, that he would be brave and he wouldn't be a coward. And it really was about ego, but he did also want to do the right thing. Teddy was a wonderfully complicated human. I love Teddy. Teddy is my hero, my personal hero. Independence. When Wood was promoted to become commander of the 2nd Cavalry Brigade, the regiment became known as the Roosevelt's Rough Riders. That term was borrowed from Buffalo Bill, who called his traveling Western show Buffalo Bill's Wild West and the Congress of Rough Riders of the World. And so on it goes from there. I just want to give them a basic idea. I mean, the Spanish-American War started because of the Maine blowing up in the Cuban harbor. Most historians believe that it was an accident. It was just bad. It was an old ship, by the way. I mean, it wasn't a very well-kept ship. It wasn't sabotage. It was probably far more just neglect than sabotage. But this movie, which is what it really is all about, is very good at demonstrating Teddy's involvement in before and during the war. Tom Berenger does an excellent job as Teddy. I mean, he does a far better job as Teddy Roosevelt than he did as James Longstreet. Mainly because the two men are so very different. Longstreet is very reserved, very controlled. You just tell he's a volcano about to explode any second now, but he never actually does. Teddy was just Teddy. If you know, Teddy, it would be like trying to control that volcano after it exploded. But Berenger does an excellent job as Teddy Roosevelt in this film. This film is very good. I was pleasantly surprised how good this movie is. I would recommend it if you want to know about the Spanish-American War, how we got involved, why, where all these Rough Riders came from, who they were, the different personalities. Like President McKinley is played by Brian Keith. Brian Keith played Roosevelt in a movie in 1975 called The Wind and the Lion, where Sean Connery was also playing. It's loosely based on the 1904 Moroccan, it was either Morocco or the Sahara, somewhere in the Sahara, to rescue an American. In the movie, it's changed to a woman, but in reality, it was a guy. Sorry, it was. They changed it to Candice Bergen. Candice Bergen, this person didn't exist. But the actual event occurred. But anyway, I'm diverging, which is fine. I remember it being a fairly decent film, but I don't remember it being a very good film. This is a good film. Brian Keith as McKinley does a good job. I just think it's interesting that he also played Teddy in that movie, but he plays President McKinley in this one. Gary Busey plays General Wheeler, a Civil War Confederate general. Well, he was during the Civil War, but now I believe he's a congressman at this point. I believe that Wheeler was a congressman at this point. McKinley wanted him to be part of it because McKinley needed the Southern votes, which is why he allowed Busey to join. And he keeps referring to the Spanish as the Union, or the Northern boys as the Union. And his son keeps correcting him, and he keeps telling him, "Stop correcting me, you're spoiling my fun." But Gary Busey does a good job in this film, too. I mean, Wheeler, he might be a little young to play Wheeler, because I think Wheeler was in his 60s at this point. And I don't think Busey is 60 at this point. He might be, but I don't think he is. Sam Elliott plays Bucky O'Neill. I'm only naming people who actually were actual humans who actually existed. There's also Blackjack Pershing is in this movie before he becomes famous. He's the commander of the Buffalo Soldiers. Stephen Crane even shows up. The writer, Stephen Crane, shows up. He's kind of there for the same reason Teddy is. Teddy and Crane wanted to experience war as it actually was and not read about it. Teddy was trying to prove his bravery and his courage and his manhood and everything that Teddy is. Behringer plays very well. I forget who the writer of the actor plays who plays Crane. He's not very much in the film, but you know who he is. If you know who he is, he does a pretty good job. I mean, Crane, he does act like Crane. He does act like the author that he was. I mean, Crane would be dead within a few years after this. He died young. I mean, he was only 20. Stephen Crane was 28, I think, when he died. 28 or 29. But he wanted to go there so he could write about it. I mean, he had written about the Red Badge of Courage. You know, and then he wanted to know what it was really like. Let's see. Because Blackjack Pershing actually eventually becomes the commander of all U.S. forces during World War One. Yes, that is Black. I know I'm forgetting. It'll come to me. I just like this film. And if you like history films, this is one of the few history films that I say yes is historically enough accurate that it is worth watching and not worrying about the small little details. It's not a perfect film. I mean, it's probably got a few here and there flaws because I don't really know a whole lot more. I should know more, but I don't know as much as I should on the Spanish-American War. I mean, the Spanish were not going to win. This was not the Spain of the Empire of 300, 200, even 200 years ago. This was a Spain barely holding on to anything. But, you know, it shows good battle scenes, good acting, very good acting. Tom Berenger plays Teddy perfectly. It's hard to explain Teddy without going just explaining. Think of a little boy just having a fun time being an adult. That's Teddy. Not just in this, but he does learn. Though at the end, you get the impression he's realizing war is not all fun and games. He learns a lot. He has an arc in this film. I think he realizes war is it's a test tube, all right, but people get killed. I mean, he does a very good job. Let's see. Brad Johnson plays in this film. If you've seen the Left Behind series, that's who that is. That's Steele, the character. Is it Steele? Yeah. He's just a character. He's just the everyman in the film. Let's see. George Hamilton plays the newspaper publisher. Why am I drawing a blank on him? Hearst, the guy who basically stirred up the war in the first place. No, he did. Hearst basically created, remember the main concept, stoked up the flames for war, yellow journalism, basically. But yes, William Randolph Hearst. Sam Elliott, I already said. This is a good film. Anyway, if you want to know more about certain things about that part, about that particular war, it's the only book I have on the Spanish-American War. Looks good. It better be. But yeah, this is a good book. I mean, it's pretty thick. Doesn't have any pictures, though. Nope. Well, was it? No, sadly. But yes. I want to read a good book on Teddy, at least the beginning before he becomes president. I would recommend this book. This is a book in a trilogy of his life. This is probably the best trilogy of Teddy Roosevelt there is, the best biographies of him. This comes up all the way up until when McKinley gets shot and becomes president. This is where this book ends. Very good book. Very good book. Very good description of his time in the Spanish-American War and the Rough Riders. And here's Teddy's memoirs of the Rough Riders. A motley crew of cowboys and Ivy League scholars, the Rough Riders stampeded into the Spanish-American War in 1898. Lieutenant Colonel Theodore Roosevelt, who organized the regiment, recounts the first United States volunteer cavalry dashing escapades in his rousing memoir. Okay, Teddy, giving a little hyperbole there, Mr. Roosevelt. Teddy was never boring. Teddy did not know how to be dull. The Rough Riders not only is an excellent work of history, it also recounts events that, soon after they occurred, would have a profound impact on history. Roosevelt returned from Cuba a national hero, and the multiple printings of his book spread and sustained that image. He also won the Congressional Medal of Honor for the Battle of San Juan Hill, for that charge up San Juan Hill, which happened July 1st, 1898. He did win. He wasn't awarded it then, but later he was. But I like Teddy Roosevelt. He's a personal hero of mine. Not because he just that stuff. He did stuff. He just was one of those people who just could not sit still long enough without doing something. He was quite the character. But yes, excellent movie. It's a miniseries actually. It was a TV miniseries on was it TNT, I believe. But anyway, this has a commentary on the back, so I'm gonna watch that as well. But this is an excellent film. I mean, I would rank up there with a lot of the best war movies ever made. And I don't think there are very many. I don't think there's any I can think off the top of my head about the Spanish-American War. I mean, this is where I'm trying to think. I keep thinking of forgetting a character in the movie that I want to mention. I think I mentioned them all though. All the ones that you would know if you knew their names. I mean, does McKinley. I mean, it isn't. I will probably do a review on the Wind and the Lion, where Brian Keith plays Roosevelt at some point once I find the movie. I had to find this movie first. But anyway, I do like good war movies. I don't. I mean, good war movies actually have an arc to them, a story to them, a plot to them. There are some bad movies out there of battles and wars. Anzio is a terrible film. I mean, terrible movie. This is not Anzio. This is very good. I'd give it a 10. Only because it has Teddy in it. And Tom Berenger does a very good job with Teddy. What is that though? Got too many things down there getting in the way of my chair. Anyway. Yeah, those are the only 3 books I'm going to show at the moment. I don't really need to show anything else. But anyway. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. I think somebody will be interested. Share it, please. Behave yourselves, people, because I'm not going to do it any more than Teddy's going to do it. Later.